Discover how a young waitress's heartwarming act transformed the life of a lost CEO's single dad. In the heart of the bustling Maple Diner, Sarah zipped between tables, her apron swishing and a bright smile illuminating her face. At just 23, she was a beacon of hope in a world shadowed by struggle. Every morning, she put on her uniform, trading her vibrant daydreams for the overwhelming responsibilities of caring for her younger brother and severely ill mother. This small-town diner, with its retro jukebox and warm, inviting scent of pancakes, was her sanctuary and her lifeline. On one particularly busy evening, the diner buzzed with laughter and the clinking of silverware, as customers lost themselves in comforting flavors and jovial conversation. That's when Mark, the disheveled man with weary eyes, stepped through the door, disrupting the rhythm of the evening. He looked as if the weight of the world rested on his shoulders. A high-powered CEO from the concrete jungle of New York, he wore the remnants of a difficult divorce and the void of failing family connections like a threadbare coat. A cascade of emotions shimmered behind his faded blue eyes, revealing a heart that had long sought comfort and connection but found only ambition. As Sarah approached, she felt the heaviness surrounding him, an energy that spoke louder than silence. "Hey there. What can I get for you?" Her voice was melodic, cutting through the gloom that enveloped him. Just coffee for now," he replied, his attention still trapped far from the small diner. Sensing his struggle, she slipped into the booth across from him, her eyes locking onto his. "You look like you could use a friend." Mark chuckled softly, an unexpected warmth beginning to thaw his frozen heart. "You've got that right. Just digging out from work stuff." Their conversation flowed like syrup, sticky sweet and delightfully soothing, drifting through stories of Sarah's small-town life and Mark's high-stakes corporate world. As their laughter mingled, Sarah's bright eyes revealed the dreams of a girl who just wanted to take care of her family. "Tell me about your daughter," she dared, feeling a connection flicker to life. Her question drew Mark in, unleashing painful memories of laughter lost to missed dinners and the vacant seat at the dinner table. Well, she needs her dad. I've been so caught up in my job, I hardly recognize her." Before they knew it, a collective sigh of understanding filled the diner, regulars pausing as they caught snippets of a heartfelt exchange brewing two lives. Sarah leaned forward, her determination shining through. "Life's too short. It's okay to prioritize family over a suit and tie." Just as he began to feel a spark of hope, a familiar ache shook Sarah's world. A phone call from home shattered the moment, delivering news of her mother's sudden health scare. She felt her heart plummet into her stomach, wrestling with despair and fear for her family. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. Mark watched as she braced herself against the table, uncertainty clouding her vibrant spirit. He felt the impulse to reach out to offer support, but fear held him back as old habits and societal expectations crept in. Yet in that moment of heartache, something shifted within him, a realization that life's genuine success isn't measured by bank balances but by connections with those we love. What would happen next for Sarah? And could Mark find the strength to reconcile the chasm between ambition and family? In that diner alive with chatter and laughter, the air hung thick with unanswered questions, and the stakes had never been higher. The moment Sarah hung up the phone, it felt like the diner around her faded into a distant hum. The laughter, the clanging of dishes, the chatter between regulars, it all blurred into background noise as her heart began to race. She couldn't let fear take over. Not now. Before anything else, she took a deep breath, reminding herself that she had to be strong for her brother and her mom. In that brief moment, she glanced up at Mark, who was still watching her with a mix of curiosity and concern. "Are you okay?" he asked, genuine worry etched across his face. Forcing a smile didn't come easily, but she tried anyway. Yeah, it's just family stuff. My mom's health, it's not great. Before she could say more, the diner door swung open, and a gust of wind rushed in, carrying a chill that mirrored her dread. Mark's eyes softened as he absorbed her words, intuitively sensing the weight they carried. Is there anything I can do? He asked, his voice steady but filled with a hint of desperation to connect. Sarah could hardly process the kindness in his tone. People didn't often step outside their own problems to help her. Yet here he was, a corporate giant in an ill-fitting shirt, willing to lend a hand in her small world. Part of her wanted to pull away. She didn't want to share her burdens with a man who was still a stranger. But another part of her, one that had been suppressed by worry for so long, saw a glimmer of hope. I just really need to be there for my brother and for my mom. She felt a knot form in her throat. I have to figure out how to juggle it all. Mark leaned forward, his expression earnest. You know, balance is tough. I've been there too, losing sight of what truly matters. The layers of vulnerability peeled back between them, becoming a mirror reflecting their own struggles. I've sacrificed too much for my job, and one day I woke up realizing I was missing everything: family, love, the small moments that make life worth it. The kind of moments that can slip away in a heartbeat. His words caught her off guard. She could see, beneath the surface of his polished corporate persona, a man who was just as lost as she felt. When did you realize that? She asked, the curiosity bubbling up. Mark hesitated, as if he were wrestling with years of regret. When I realized I had forgotten to show up for my daughter's life. All the promotions, fancy dinners, they didn't matter. What mattered was being present. Sarah felt a depth of understanding form between them, a bond kindled by shared fears. Maybe it's not too late for you, she offered, her voice soft but steady. You could take the first step back. I want that, he said, hope flickering in his eyes. Maybe I need to start reaching out instead of retreating. His gaze flickered toward the window, the setting sun casting golden light around them. Sometimes it takes a stranger to remind us what we're missing. Their connection hung tantalizingly in the air. But before they could dive deeper, Sarah felt an urgent buzz of her phone again. The screen lit up, and tears started to well in her eyes, the kind of tears that came from the thought of losing everything she had fought for. She wiped them away, determined to be strong. As she excused herself to take the call, Mark called after her, You don't have to face this alone, Sarah. His voice resonated, surprising her with a warmth that lingered. The weight of those words settled in her heart. Could she really start letting people in? And just what journey lay ahead, both for Sarah in her race against time and Mark in his quest for redemption? With the phone call echoing in her mind, she steeled herself. There was so much to figure out and choices to make. But one thing was clear, the path forward would lead them somewhere they never expected. Would they both find the courage to reconcile their pasts and step into a new reality? In that moment, the questions hung thick in the air, heavy with promise and uncertainty, just waiting to be explored. Sarah stepped outside the diner, the cool evening air wrapping around her like a soothing blanket. She answered the call from her brother, Danny, knowing that every second counted. Hey, how's Mom? She asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Not great, Danny's voice cracked, reminding her of the weight of their family situation. She's getting worse, Sarah. The doctor mentioned. Maybe he paused, the silence heavy between them, maybe we need to talk about other options. The words hung in the air like a dark cloud. Options? She repeated, her heart pounding. What options? Sarah, I think we should consider a care facility. Just until we can figure this out. I can't do this alone. It felt like the ground was shifting beneath her. The thought of her mother anywhere but home was unbearable. I don't want to think about that right now. We can make this work, we have to. I know, but she needs more help than we can give. His voice was shaky, filled with despair. As she listened, tears streamed silently down her cheeks. She remembered her childhood, the love and laughter that filled those walls. The thought of losing that felt like losing herself. "I need to talk to Mom," she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'll figure it out." "Okay, just be careful, Sarah. I love you." "I love you too," she replied, wiping the tears away before returning inside the diner, where Mark was waiting. The concern etched across his face made her catch her breath. Just moments ago, he had said she wasn't alone, and now she could see the truth in those words. "What happened?" he asked as she approached, his tone gentle yet persistent. "They're talking about putting Mom in a care facility," she replied, her voice trembling. "I can't believe this is happening." Mark stepped closer, a protective energy radiating from him. "What can I do to help?" "I don't even know," she replied, frustration bubbling up. "I'm just trying to process everything. Why don't we figure it out together?" he offered, steady and calm. The sincerity in his eyes cracked something within her. Maybe letting someone in wouldn't be so bad after all. "I've never really thought about asking for help," she admitted. "I always thought I had to shoulder it myself." "Everyone needs support sometimes, Sarah. We can make a plan," he encouraged. As she pondered the possibility of not going it alone, a spark of determination ignited inside. For so long, the weight of her family's struggles had closed her off, but she realized that accepting help didn't signify weakness. It was about building strength, together. "All right," she said, her resolve building. "Let us start with the basics. What do I need to do for Mom?" "We can make a list." Mark nodded, a warm smile breaking across his face. "That's the spirit." Standing there, surrounded by comforting familiarity, Sarah began to feel the boundaries of her world expand. It was no longer just about survival, it was about rediscovering hope, even in the darkest moments. Suddenly, a new thought flickered through her mind. "What about you, Mark? You mentioned wanting to reconnect with your daughter. Maybe we can bounce ideas off each other. Family, support, care. It all connects." His eyes widened, reflecting a hint of surprise mixed with gratitude. "Yeah, I'd like that," he said softly. "Maybe I've been running too long without facing what really matters." As they started talking strategy, the tremors of anxiety began to settle. They sketched plans on napkins, care schedules, phone calls, moments to cherish. You could feel the weight of their shared burdens lift, if only slightly. But even with this newfound connection, a sense of urgency still gnawed at Sarah. What if she didn't have enough time to pull it all together? The threads of her life, fragile yet resilient, began to weave something new. As they finalized their plans, the thought lingered, could this be the beginning of something profound for both of them? And what would it mean to fully step into this new reality together? With every word they exchanged, a new chapter began to unfold, filled with the promise of change. Salvation, and perhaps even a future neither had anticipated. The diner buzzed softly as Sarah and Mark worked through their list. Plates clattered, coffee pots poured, and laughter mingled with the familiar scent of greasy fries. It felt like any other evening, but for Sarah, everything had shifted. The burden she had carried alone now seemed like a shared weight, and with that realization, she found a new sense of clarity. "What if we create a schedule?" she suggested. "A routine for Mom. Something to give her a sense of control." Mark nodded, jotting down ideas. "That sounds good. Structure can help. It might make her feel more secure amid all this." Their conversation flowed easily now, the tension of the earlier phone call gradually melting away. Sarah caught glimpses of Mark's passion as he spoke about his daughter, Sarah's heart warmed by his honesty. He had a way of bringing the chaos of life into focus. While they talked, her phone buzzed again, jolting her out of her thoughts. It was Danny. She hesitated but answered, the knot in her stomach tightening. "Hey, I was just thinking of you," he began, his voice steadier than before. Did you have a chance to think about Mom? I really think we should schedule a meeting with her doctor. I just don't know if I can, she confessed, the lump in her throat threatening to spill over. What if he tells us there's nothing more we can do? Danny sighed, a load of weariness lingering behind his words. We need to prepare ourselves for everything, Sarah. We can't pretend this isn't happening. I know. Her voice was barely above a whisper. I just wish it didn't have to be this way. For what it's worth, he added softly, I'm proud of you. Maybe this meeting is what we need to finally make sense of our next step. Those words hung in the air, and for a moment, Sarah felt pulled in two directions, longing for hope yet crushed by fear. I'll talk to you tomorrow, she finally replied, slipping her phone back into her pocket. What did he say? Mark asked, concern etched on his face. Just we need to meet with the doctor. Soon. Mark reached across the table and took her hand in his, grounding her with warmth. You don't have to do this alone. You have me. We can take this step together. A surge of gratitude rolled through her. She realized how much Mark's presence changed everything. Here was a man who didn't shy away from discomfort but faced it head-on. Thank you, Mark. She squeezed his hand, the moment lingering between them like a promise. Just then, the door of the diner swung open, and in walked an older woman, eyes scanning the room until they landed on Sarah. Her heart skipped a beat. Mrs. Carter, the kind soul from a few tables away, was here again, now with fresh flowers in hand. Hello, dear. She called out, her smile brightening the dim diner. I brought these for you and your lovely mother. I thought they might bring a little sunshine. A wave of emotion washed over Sarah as she accepted the blooms, their vibrant colors a stark contrast to the heaviness she felt inside. Thank you, she said, her voice thick with gratitude. It means so much. Mrs. Carter approached, her wisdom mirrored in her gentle demeanor. You're doing the best you can, sweetheart. Don't forget to take care of yourself, too. As Sarah looked into those knowing eyes, she felt the weight of her worries lighten. Perhaps Mrs. Carter's kindness was a reminder to find joy even when things felt bleak. With the flowers in hand and the warmth of Mark's support beside her, Sarah felt a flicker of hope begin to bloom. But something else sat deep within her, unresolved. What would the meeting with Mom's doctor reveal? Would they truly find a path forward? As the evening settled into night, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that the real challenges were still ahead. And yet, with every challenge came the chance for transformation, both for her and for Mark. Let us make sure we feel ready for whatever comes next, together, she said determinedly, and somehow, that felt like the truth she needed to hear. In that moment, the weight of uncertainty began to transform into a powerful resolve. Tomorrow is going to be our turning point, isn't it? Yes, Mark replied, his voice steady, and I'll be right here with you. But as Sarah looked out the window into the darkened street, a thought nagged at her. Could they really navigate the complexities life was throwing at them? And what if they failed? As doubts lingered, she gazed at the flowers in her hands, contemplating the unfolding journey ahead. Would it guide them toward healing, or uncover deeper woes? Morning light spilled into the diner, bathing everything in a warm glow. Sarah arrived early, her heart a mix of anticipation and anxiety. The sweet scent of pancakes filled the air, mingling with her nervous thoughts. She breathed deeply, trying to calm herself as she prepared for the day ahead. Mark was already at their usual booth, studying a notebook filled with notes from their late-night brainstorming session. He looked up, and a smile broke across his face as she approached. Good morning. Ready for the meeting? He asked, his tone both cheerful and supportive. Not quite, she admitted, sinking into the seat across from him. I've been wrestling with my thoughts all morning. What if we don't get the answers we need? Mark leaned forward, his expression serious yet reassuring. We'll get through it. No matter what happens, we're in this together. Sarah nodded, grateful for his steady presence. They shared a moment of silence, each lost in their own worries. How would her mother's health affect everything? What if the news was worse than they anticipated? With those thoughts swirling, Sarah felt her resolve falter. Just then, the door swung open, and in walked Mrs. Carter again, carrying a bag of bagels. "Good morning, you two," she greeted, her contagious enthusiasm brightening the dreary day. She settled into the booth beside them, her eyes sparkling. "I thought I'd bring some breakfast cheer." "Mrs. Carter, you're too kind," Sarah said, smiling despite her worries. The simple act of kindness made the weight on her heart feel a little lighter. Over bagels and coffee, they chatted about everything from the weather to local gossip, laughter spilling into the corners of the diner. Yet in the back of Sarah's mind, the impending meeting loomed ominously. "Do you think it's silly to feel this way?" Sarah finally blurted out, her hands fidgeting with a napkin. "I mean, worrying so much about what a doctor might say." "Not at all," Mrs. Carter replied with warmth. "It's perfectly human to feel scared when you're facing the unknown. But remember, you're not alone in this. The ones who love you will be right beside you." Her words resonated deep inside Sarah. The strength of community, that support from those who genuinely cared, wrapped around her like a cozy blanket. She felt her heart begin to beat a little faster, not from fear now, but from a newfound strength. "Thank you for that," Sarah said, tears prickling at the edges of her eyes. "It's easy to forget the love that surrounds us when we're so lost in our worries." Mrs. Carter reached for her hand, squeezing it gently. "Love is a powerful thing. It can ground you when the world feels shaky." Mark nodded, his eyes soft with understanding. "Let that love guide you today. Whatever happens, you'll face it together." After the comforting exchange, Sarah found her footing again. They finished breakfast, and as they got ready to leave, Mark put a hand on her shoulder, grounding her once more. "You ready?" he asked, a mix of concern and admiration in his gaze. "Yeah," she replied, more confident now. "Let us do this." As they made their way to the hospital, anxiety knotted in her stomach. Yet it was accompanied by something new: hope. Perhaps this meeting could be a turning point after all. But as they approached the office, an unsettling thought hit Sarah. What if the news didn't just affect her mother? What if it put her relationship with Danny or even her future with Mark at stake? Standing at the threshold, her heart raced. She glanced at Mark, who caught her gaze, silently reassuring her. Taking a deep breath, she stepped forward. A moment of truth awaited them. And the answers they might find today could redefine everything. The sterile environment of the hospital clashed with the warmth of the diner, and each step Sarah took toward the office felt heavier than the last. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting a harsh glow that only amplified her unease. With Mark beside her, she fought back the emotions bubbling within, doubts creeping in like shadows. As they reached the waiting area, a nurse came out, clipboard in hand, calling for a name Sarah had dreaded hearing. "Ms. Bennett?" The nurse looked up, her eyes patient but focused. Sarah's heart sank, it felt like the world briefly paused. She exchanged a glance with Mark, who nodded with encouragement, then turned back toward the nurse. "Yes, that's me," Sarah replied, her voice steadier than she felt. "Your mother is ready to see you now." Taking a breath, Sarah turned to Mark. His reassuring smile was the anchor she needed. "You coming?" "I wouldn't miss it for the world," he said, and a small spark of bravado flared within her. They followed the nurse down a long corridor lined with framed pictures of serene landscapes and vibrant flowers, trying to drown out her rising anxiety. They entered the room, and Sarah's heart soared at the sight of her mother nestled under sheets, looking more fragile than she had imagined. "Mom!" she exclaimed, rushing to the bedside. The older woman's face lit up at the sight of her daughter, a faint smile breaking through the weariness. "Sarah, sweetheart." Her mother's voice was just a whisper, but it filled the room with warmth. Mark stood back, a respectful distance away, allowing Sarah to embrace her mother. The weight of uncertainty slowly began to lift as they held each other, a simple but profound reminder of their bond. The moment felt timeless, a respite from the impending reality of tomorrow's news. "Have you eaten?" Sarah asked, pulling back to look into her mother's eyes. "Oh, you know me. I'd rather see you," her mother replied, trying to maintain her usual lightheartedness. But there was an edge of concern lingering in her gaze, the shadow of fear unspoken between them. "I brought you something," Mark chimed in, stepping closer and holding out a bag of freshly baked bagels. "Consider it a little breakfast surprise. I know it's your favorite." "Mark, you are a treasure," her mother exclaimed, her spirits lifting at the gesture. As Sarah watched, the way her mother responded to Mark's kindness filled her with gratitude. Maybe this moment was a chance for more than just the news, perhaps it was about healing past hurts as well. Mark glanced at Sarah and gave her a subtle nod, as if to say, "We can reinvent this together." It reassured her that they could navigate whatever lay ahead together. After some light chatting and laughter over the bagels, the nurse returned, this time with a doctor in tow. As they entered, the air shifted. Sarah felt her stomach clench at the sight of the doctor's serious expression. This was it. The answers they had come seeking hung heavily in the air. "Ms. Bennett," the doctor began, his tone measured, "we need to discuss your mother's test results." A familiar fear gripped Sarah's heart, and she glanced at her mother, whose hand squeezed hers tightly. They were in this together too, and no matter what came next, love would be their guiding light. But as the doctor spoke, revealing the details that could change everything, Sarah felt a sharp pang of realization. How would she navigate the path ahead if the future she envisioned was not possible? Would she have the strength to face not only her mother's health but the implications it held for her own life? With questions spiraling in her mind, the answers unfolding could mark the beginning of her transformation, but at what cost? The doctor's voice felt like a low rumble in the background, while Sarah's world retreated into a fog. Words like treatment, palliative care, and wish echoed in her mind, but the meanings slipped away like grains of sand. She fought to focus, squeezing her mother's hand tighter, feeling the warmth of her skin against her fingertips, a lifeline amidst the chaos of information that swirled around them. "Let us give you both a moment," the doctor finally said, nodding slightly. With that, he and the nurse stepped out, leaving the room with a heavy silence that seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. "Mom, what are they saying?" Sarah whispered, her throat tightening. The tremor in her voice betrayed the brave face she tried to maintain. Her mother's eyes glistened, and for a moment, Sarah saw a resilience buried beneath all the fear. "They're talking about options, sweetie. We can make decisions together." Together. The word hung between them, both a promise and a plea. Sarah had always assumed they'd face everything together, but this was more than anything she had prepared for. She searched her mother's gaze for reassurances, for the comforting wisdom that had always guided her, but now it was shadowed by uncertainty. Mark had quietly slipped out, giving them space, but Sarah could feel his presence just outside the door. She wanted him here. "Mom, I'm scared." The admission came out in a whisper, almost a confession. Her mother reached up, brushing a few strands of hair away from Sarah's forehead. "I am too, sweetheart. But let us focus. We've always been fighters, haven't we?" The strength in her voice was weakening, but the fire in her spirit shone through. Of course Sarah hesitated. How could she fight when the truth felt so daunting? What if we run out of time? The older woman shook her head slowly. "We won. Time can be a tricky thing, but we still have each other, and that means everything. We'll figure this out." That flicker of hope ignited something within Sarah. Her mother had always been her warrior, her unconditional support. Now, it was her turn to be that for her mother, to push through the fear that loomed like dark clouds overhead. As if reading her mind, her mother smiled faintly. "You know, I was thinking back to those summer days, when you'd sneak into the bakery with those big dreams of moving to the city." A hint of nostalgia colored her voice. Yeah, I remember, Sarah said, smiling at the memory despite the weight pressing down on them. I wanted to be someone, do something amazing. And you are, her mother affirmed, squeezing Sarah's hand again, this time with the strength that echoed the determination of their shared past. Just like we conquered the world together then, we will do so now. Sarah felt a drive rising within her, urgency coursing through her veins. It was time to channel that tenacity, to focus on what she could control. Okay, then let us ask questions. Let us plan. Can we get a second opinion? Maybe try a different approach? Now that's the spirit. Her mother said, eyes sparkling with a mix of pride and fight. As they began to brainstorm their next steps, the door creaked open, and Mark peeked his head in. His expression quickly transformed from concern to a supportive smile as he realized the strength building in the room. Everything okay? He asked softly, his voice a grounding force. Yes, Sarah replied, her heart suddenly full of gratitude for both him and her mother. We're going to fight this. And in that moment, a wave of determination washed over them, filling the void left by fear. But deep beneath the surface, Sarah felt the weight of what it meant to fight a fight for time, for memories, for every laugh shared and tear shed. How could she prepare for a battle she never anticipated? And as the little victories emerged, would they be enough to keep her mom by her side? The answers were waiting just beyond the door. The quiet returned as Mark settled into the room beside Sarah. He could sense the heavy air, the worry woven tightly into each word. Watching Sarah and her mother, he felt the weight of their reality. It was impossible to know exactly what to say, but the determination in their voices stirred something in him. Want me to grab a coffee for you too? He offered, a small distraction from the somber conversation. Sure. A coffee would be great, Sarah replied, her eyes flicking to her mother, searching for any sign of reassurance. As Mark left, the silence strained until her mother broke it with a soft chuckle. Remember that time we almost burned the cupcakes? Sarah laughed, the sound light and bright, creating a brief but beautiful pause. Yes. You insisted we turn the oven up, even after we read the instructions. She could see her mother's eyes sparkling, their shared laughter wading through the fear suffocating the room. Well, they weren't great, her mother admitted, but the effort made them taste a little better. Just a little. Sarah grinned, the warmth of nostalgia washing over her. This was how they had found joy in small things. Suddenly, the unyielding reality crashed down hard again. Mom, Sarah said, her voice dropping, what if we try this? The second opinion, and, what if we find someone who believes in you? Someone who helps. Her mother's expression turned thoughtful as she gazed into Sarah's eyes. I'd like that. But you know, my biggest worry isn't about treatments or decisions. It's about you. I want you to be okay, no matter what happens. A lump formed in Sarah's throat. What do you mean? I mean, her voice wavered, don't lose sight of your world while you're rallying for me. Live your life, sweetheart. You deserve happiness. You've always had that spark. Tears prickled at Sarah's eyes. I can't think about life without you, she whispered. It felt unfathomable to imagine navigating the world alone. Suddenly, the room felt dangerously fragile, as if the walls might crumble if exposed to too much truth. Her mother reached out, placing a reassuring hand over Sarah's. You're stronger than you know. I want to be here for as long as I can, but I also want to prepare you. It's okay to lean on Mark, and your friends, they love you. The thought of leaning on anyone else felt both comforting and frightening. What if they couldn't support her enough? And yet, in the same breath, she felt something shift inside her. Mark returned, 2 steaming cups cradled in his hands. I got you a double shot, he said, handing a cup to Sarah and then to her mom. Figured you'd need the extra boost. As they took small sips, the warmth seeped through them, igniting conversations that fluttered in the air like delicate paper lanterns. They discussed trivial things, the weather and favorite shows. Each laugh bounced off the walls, easing the tension, if only momentarily. When a lull settled in, Sarah felt compelled to break the surface. "Mark, what's next? I mean, how can we handle this? Any thoughts?" Mark looked to Sarah and then her mother, his expression transformed from gentle concern to determined strength. "I can help you research options. Let's make a list of questions for the next doctor. I'll be with you through every step." The offer filled the room with renewed energy. Sarah watched as her mother nodded, a flicker of gratitude shining in her eyes. "But what if we don't have enough time?" Sarah's voice trembled, the question escaping before it was fully formed. Her mother's grip tightened on her hand. "Then we make every second count. Let's create moments worth remembering." The words resonated deeply, a mantra she could hold on to. Suddenly, the idea of urgency didn't frighten her, it called her to action. "Okay. Then we're going to fill every day with as much as we can," Sarah asserted, her own voice growing stronger. And as they prepared to dive into the planning, a thought rooted itself in Sarah's mind. If they could muster so much strength together, what hidden depths were waiting to be uncovered? Mark's phone vibrated, breaking through their reverie. He looked down at the screen, his expression shifting. "I'll be right back," he said, stepping outside. In the lingering quiet, mother and daughter shared a glance that held a universe of understanding. With every second, they both knew the stakes were higher than ever. Sarah could feel the heaviness of every heartbeat pressing against the fabric of their unspoken hopes. As the minutes ticked away, she wondered what other struggles lay ahead. What would they uncover next? Outside, Mark stood with his phone, a sudden urgency stirring in his gut, half hopeful, half apprehensive. What he discovered could change everything and change their battle entirely. Mark stepped outside, the chilly air hitting him like a splash of cold water. He squinted at the screen, his heart racing as he processed the message that awaited him. It was from his sister, an urgent call for help. She had been struggling with something overwhelming, just like Sarah's family. The weight of it all sat heavy on him, clashing against the fragile hope building inside the hospital room. His thoughts turned back to Sarah and her mother, occupied with their plans, and with that, he felt the pull of responsibility wrap around him. Whatever news he had to share could shift everything, but he didn't want to derail their moment of renewal. Instead, he took a breath, determined to find the right moment to tell them about his sister too. He stepped back into the room, ready to resume the atmosphere of determination and hope. Instantly, he was welcomed by the warmth of the laughter still hanging in the air. Sarah and her mother were animatedly discussing the surprise picnic they wanted to plan for the weekend. "I can pack the sandwiches," Sarah declared, a smile on her face. "And we can bring those ridiculous hats you love. Only if you're wearing one too," her mother teased, her voice brightening the room. For a fleeting moment, the reality outside ceased to exist, leaving only the echo of comfort and connection. Mark felt a twinge of warmth in his chest. It was incredible to witness their bond manifest in such vibrant ways. He knew it was a fragile piece, but it meant everything to him to see them buoyed by dreams against the backdrop of turmoil. "Okay," he finally spoke up, letting some lightheartedness seep into his tone. "I'm in. I'll be the judge of who has the better sandwich-making skills, and I'll be wearing the best hat." The laughter erupted again, and Sarah's eyes sparkled with gratitude. "Great. We'll make you wear a tutu." As the light-hearted banter filled the room, Sarah's mother's gaze fell on Mark, shifting to a more serious tone. "You've been quiet, Mark. What's on your mind?" He hesitated, wrestling with the conflicting emotions swirling inside him. "It's about my sister," she reached out. "It sounds like she's going through something tough." The playfulness of the moment waned, ushering in an air of concern. Sarah leaned forward, every inch of her being focused on him. "Is she okay?" "I don't know, but I'm going to see her," Mark said, pausing, his heart racing at how his situation mirrored theirs. "I've got to be there for her, just like you need to be there for your mom." Her mother nodded, understanding glimmering in her eyes. Family is important. When it comes to times like these, we have to be there for each other. Exactly, Mark said, feeling the entangled destinies between them weave tighter. He suddenly thought about how they all craved connection and support. But I can help both of you. I want to do more. Sarah's gaze shifted from Mark to her mother, and then back again. The unspoken burden settled on her shoulders. If we're all facing these struggles, then maybe we can lean on each other. I mean, there's power in numbers, right? Yes, her mother said, her voice stronger now. Let us create a plan. Together. As they began to talk through strategies for both of their families, Mark felt an undeniable surge of purpose. It wasn't just Sarah and her mother seeking hope. They were all in this together, determined to make every moment count. But the thought of leaving weighed on Mark. Who would be there for Sarah and her mother while he tended to his sister? The hesitation caused the urgency to flare again. As if reading his mind, Sarah asked, "You'll come back, won't you?" He nodded, trying to steady the emotions swirling inside him. "I promise. I'll be back as soon as I can. We'll tackle this together." But as he said those words, a flicker of doubt wormed its way into his mind. Was he strong enough for both families? And what awaited him with his sister? As the heaviness of the question settled over him, he couldn't shake the idea that perhaps the hardest battles were still ahead. Sarah watched him, sensing his internal struggle. "Mark, whatever you're facing, remember you don't have to do it alone." A wave of gratitude surged through him. Could leaning into this make everything more bearable? It was a thought worth exploring, but first, he would have to confront the hidden truths waiting for him. As Mark prepared to leave, he glanced back at Sarah and her mother. Their newfound hope surrounded them like a shield. Just as he stepped outside, his phone buzzed again, causing his heart to skip. There was a new message, and he paused, already apprehensive about what he might find. What if this time, the news was more than he bargained for? What else could they possibly uncover together? Mark stood outside the hospital, his fingers hovering over his phone screen as a wave of uncertainty washed over him. Every tick of the seconds felt monumental. What was waiting behind that message? With a deep breath, he finally opened it. It was from his sister, a simple note, "I need you." His heart tightened. She was struggling, and he had to act. Yet, the reality of Sarah and her mother lingered at the forefront of his thoughts. How could he leave when they were all still facing their battles? He looked back inside, catching sight of Sarah, her expression a mix of hope and determination that nearly knocked the air from his lungs. "Mark," her voice floated towards him. She glanced back, concern etched on her features. He stepped in, slipping the phone into his pocket. "I just got a message from my sister," he said, grounding himself in the moment. "She needs me." The brightness of Sarah's smile wavered, the air thickening with unsaid words. He cleared his throat. "But I want to be here, too. For you and your mother." "Mark, you need to go," her mother interjected, her voice steady and kind. "Family needs you just as much. We're working through this together. You've done so much already." "No," but he began, wanting to bridge the space between them, unsure how to articulate the tug-of-war inside him. "Listen," Sarah said softly, her tone resolute. "We're going to be okay. I promise we'll keep you in the loop. Just as you're giving us support, you need to be there for your sister." He released a breath he didn't know he was holding. "Okay," he finally relented, his heart heavy yet surprisingly lightened at the same time. "But I'll be back as soon as I can. We'll keep communicating, right?" "Absolutely," Sarah confirmed, gratitude shining in her eyes. They exchanged a silent agreement, a promise of support across the miles. There was strength in their shared understanding of the complexities of family, and with that realization, the threads connecting them all felt stronger than ever. "Just keep fighting for each other," Mark said, leaning in to briefly hug both Sarah and her mother. Their warmth enveloped him, infusing his heart with strength. He stepped away, a bittersweet feeling swelling within him. "Text me as soon as you know more, okay? I mean it. I want to be an active part of this." "Always," Sarah answered, her determination shining even brighter. With one last look exchanged, he turned to leave, filled with urgency and purpose. The moment he stepped outside, he breathed in the fresh air, knowing he had to give himself fully to his sister now. As he drove, his thoughts swirled with hope and trepidation, each winding road marking the complexity of family and connection. He owed it to his sister to show up fully, just as he had for Sarah and her mother, and as he turned onto their street, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was walking toward yet another defining moment. Meanwhile, Sarah and her mother settled back into the routine of planning their next steps. The fear still lingered, but every laugh, every shared moment, refueled their spirits. They were a team, a unit, weaving through the uncertainties with resilience. "Let us write a letter to the doctor, too," Sarah suggested, flipping open her notebook again. "Get clarity before our next appointment. We deserve answers." Her mother nodded, pride swelling in her heart. "That's the spirit, darling. You are my warrior." As they worked together, words flowed, problems became solutions, and the weight of their circumstances began to lift. They were not finished yet, far from it, but a light began to break through the light of hope anchored in connection. Their shared smiles echoed through the quiet room, and with each moment that passed, they realized they were painting a future neither had thought possible a few days ago. They were no longer just surviving, they were now thriving, side by side, creating the life they always desired. And as they closed their day, a sense of unwavering resolve settled in their hearts. No matter what challenges awaited them, they would face them together, grounded in love and hope. Now, it's your turn to join the journey. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you won't miss our next exclusive stories. Don't wait not even one more second to show your support. Leave a like now to boost us in the algorithm and let us know you're with us. Comment your thoughts and feelings about this transformative ending. Share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to feel this kind of inspiring change. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions, so let us show everyone the power of connection and love.